Dr. Sarah Chen was having a normal Tuesday morning at her dental clinic in downtown Seattle. The rain tapped gently against her office window as she prepared another dose of laughing gas for her nervous patient. That's when the world changed forever. The aliens arrived without warning. Their massive ships appeared in the sky like dark clouds, blocking out the sun over every major city on Earth. In Seattle, the shadow of their vessel turned the rainy morning into an eerie twilight. Dr. Chen's patient, mouth still open in the dental chair, pointed at the window with wide eyes. On every TV, phone, and computer screen across the planet, the same message appeared. The alien commander's face looked almost like a cross between a praying mantis and a dragon. Its voice, translated by their advanced technology, was cold and emotionless. People of Earth, I am Supreme Warmaster Kithax of the Zixathraxian Empire. Your planet has been chosen for integration into our glorious empire. You have 24 Earth hours to surrender all military control and governmental authority. Resistance is. The alien paused, its mandibles clicking, inadvisable. In New York, the United Nations building buzzed with panic. Security Council members rushed through the halls, their phones pressed to their ears. The Secretary General had called an emergency meeting, but nobody knew what to do. Earth's most powerful weapons looked like toys compared to the alien ships floating above their cities. Military bases around the world went on high alert. Pilots scrambled to their jets, but commanders ordered them to stay on the ground. One wrong move could start a war they couldn't win. Satellite images showed more Zixathraxian ships hiding behind the moon, enough to destroy every major city on Earth in minutes. Back in Seattle, Dr. Chen noticed something odd. Her equipment, usually stable and reliable, was acting strange. The readings on her nitrous oxide monitor jumped and flickered every time the alien message played on her office TV. At first, she thought it was just interference, but her scientific mind couldn't let it go. She recorded the readings on her phone, her hands shaking with excitement. The pattern was clear. Something about the alien's communication signal was reacting with the laughing gas. She needed help to understand what it meant, but maybe, just maybe, it was important. The streets outside had become chaos. Some people ran around in panic, while others stood frozen, staring up at the massive ship that blocked out the sky. Police tried to maintain order, but how do you keep calm when the world might end in 24 hours? Dr. Chen carefully saved a copy of her readings and sent them to her old college friend, Dr. James O'Malley. If anyone could make sense of this, it would be him. As a xenobiologist, he had spent his career studying the possibility of alien life. Now that aliens were actually here, his expertise might be more valuable than ever. The Zixathraxian ship above Seattle hummed with a deep, constant tone that made windows vibrate. Their message repeated every hour, like a countdown to Earth's surrender. The aliens were so sure of their victory that they didn't even bother to hide their ships or protect them. Why should they? Their scans showed Earth was centuries behind their technology. As the first day of alien contact drew to a close, most humans felt hopeless. World leaders argued about whether to surrender or fight. Military commanders drew up desperate plans that everyone knew would fail. But in a small dental office in Seattle, Dr. Sarah Chen stared at her equipment readings with growing excitement. Sometimes the biggest discoveries happen by accident, and sometimes the smallest things can change the course of history. The clock was ticking. Earth had less than 18 hours left to surrender. But maybe, just maybe, they had a chance, and it all started with a dentist and her laughing gas. Dr. James O'Malley was hiding in his university laboratory when he got Dr. Chen's message. The alien ships had turned the once busy campus into a ghost town. Most people had gone home to be with their families, expecting the worst. But James couldn't leave, not when real aliens were finally here after his 20 years of studying theoretical alien biology. He opened the data files from Sarah's dental equipment and nearly dropped his phone in excitement. The readings showed something impossible. The aliens' communication signals were creating a strange resonance with the nitrous oxide molecules. He had to call her right away. "Sarah, are you sure these readings are correct?" he asked as soon as she answered. "I've checked them 5 times, she replied. "Every time their message plays, the gas readings go crazy. What do you think it means?" James paced his lab, his mind racing. Their biology must be different from ours in a fundamental way. The signal isn't just communication. It's connected to their nervous system somehow. "I need you to try something for me." Sarah looked at her nearly empty office. Her last patient had left hours ago, but she still had access to all her equipment. "What do you need?" "Turn on their message again, but this time, release a tiny amount of laughing gas into the air near your sensors." The experiment was simple, but what they discovered changed everything. When the laughing gas met the alien signal, the readings showed patterns that looked like neural interference. It was as if the gas was disrupting whatever biological technology the aliens were using to communicate. "We need to get this information to someone important," Sarah said, her voice shaking with nervous energy. But who would believe a dentist and a professor? James had an idea. His sister worked as a secretary at the Pentagon. One phone call later, and they were on a video call with military scientists. At first, the officials looked annoyed at being interrupted during a global crisis, but their expressions changed quickly as James explained their discovery. "The Extrathraxians evolved differently from us," he told them, pointing to his years of research. "Their nervous systems are more advanced, which is why they're so intelligent. But that might also be their weakness. They never encountered nitrous oxide on their worlds. They have no defense against it." The military scientists asked dozens of questions. How much gas would they need? How could they deliver it? Would it work through the alien ships? Sarah explained everything she knew about laughing gas from her years of dental work, while James connected it to his theories about alien biology. As they talked, something unexpected happened on the alien ship above New York. A small maintenance crew had been working near a vent when Earth's air mixing with their ship's atmosphere made them act strangely. Security cameras showed the mighty Extrathraxian warriors pointing at each other and making weird noises. They were laughing. Word reached Supreme Warmaster Cthax quickly. His soldiers were acting inappropriately, losing their discipline. Something on this primitive planet was affecting his troops. But what could possibly harm the mighty Extrathraxian Empire? In Washington, D.C., generals and scientists crowded around screens showing Sarah's data. For the first time since the aliens arrived, there was hope. Earth had a weapon, something the aliens had never seen before, and it came from the most unlikely place, a dental office in Seattle. Sarah and James worked through the night, running more tests and gathering data. They had less than 12 hours before the aliens' deadline. It was time to show the universe that sometimes the best defense isn't the most advanced technology. Sometimes it's just something that makes you laugh. The United Nations emergency meeting room was packed with world leaders and military commanders. On the large screen at the front, Dr. Sarah Chen and Dr. James O'Malley were explaining their crazy plan. Most of the generals looked angry or confused. A few were laughing, but not because of any gas. They thought the idea was ridiculous. "You want us to fight an advanced alien empire with laughing gas?" General Williams of the U.S. Army asked, shaking his head. "This isn't a comedy movie, doctors. This is war." Sarah stepped closer to her camera. "With all due respect, General, we've seen it work. The Extrathraxians have never evolved any resistance to nitrous oxide. Their advanced nervous systems make them more vulnerable to it than humans." James jumped in to help. "Think about it like this. They're so advanced that they never needed chemical medicines like we do. Their bodies have no defense against something we use every day in dental offices." The Russian general stood up next. "And how do you suggest we deliver this gas to their ships?" "They would shoot down any aircraft that gets close." That's when Dr. Chen revealed the second part of their plan. She had been talking to weather scientists all night. "We don't need to get close," she explained. "We can use the Earth's wind patterns to deliver the gas naturally. Their ships are already sitting in our atmosphere." The room got quiet as everyone thought about this. It was crazy enough that it might actually work. The Chinese representative spoke up first. "Every dental office in China is ready to help. We can start producing the gas immediately." One by one, other countries joined in. India offered their massive medical supply network. Germany promised their chemical manufacturing plants. Brazil said their air force was ready to help spread the gas. Even smaller countries wanted to help. Thailand offered their weather monitoring stations, and Kenya offered their military bases as distribution points. Time was running out. They had less than 6 hours before the aliens' deadline. Around the world, dental offices turned into military production facilities. Dentists worked alongside soldiers, teaching them how to handle the gas safely. Weather satellites were reprogrammed to track wind patterns that could carry the gas to the alien ships. In his command ship above New York, Supreme War Master Cathax was getting worried reports. More of his soldiers were acting strangely. Some couldn't stop making weird noises with their mouths, what humans called laughing. Others were saying inappropriate things like jokes and puns. The mighty Zexathraxian discipline was cracking. Back in Seattle, Sarah and James worked with military scientists to make the gas stronger. They discovered that mixing it with certain chemicals made it even more effective against the alien biology. James called it super laughing gas, though the military preferred the code name Operation Chuckle. Sarah looked out her window at the dark shape of the alien ship still blocking the sun. She remembered how scared everyone had been yesterday. Now, there was hope. All around her, people were working together. Former enemies were helping each other. The whole world had united, not with nuclear weapons or space lasers, but with something as simple as laughing gas. The final preparations were almost ready. Thousands of canisters of nitrous oxide were in position around the world. Weather computers calculated the perfect time to release the gas. Military commanders waited nervously for the signal. Humanity was about to launch the strangest attack in the history of warfare. And somewhere up in those massive ships, the mighty Zexathraxian Empire had no idea they were about to become the laughingstock of the galaxy. It was time to test their crazy plan. The military chose Vancouver, Canada, for the first attack. A small Zexathraxian scout ship was hovering low over the city, monitoring Earth's communications. It was the perfect target. Dr. Sarah Chen and Dr. James O'Malley watched from a military command center in Seattle. On dozens of screens around them, they could see weather maps, wind patterns, and live video feeds from Vancouver. The Canadian military had modified a weather satellite to release a special canister of concentrated laughing gas high in the atmosphere. "Remember," Sarah told the generals, "once the gas hits them, we'll only have a few minutes to see if it works. The aliens might figure out what we're doing and warn their fleet." The commanding officer nodded and spoke into his radio. "Operation Chuckle is go. Release the canister." High above Vancouver, the satellite quietly released its payload. The invisible cloud of nitrous oxide began falling slowly through the atmosphere, carried by the wind directly toward the alien scout ship. Everyone in the command center held their breath. At first, nothing happened. The scout ship continued its patrol, its purple-tinted metal gleaming in the morning sun. Then, something changed. The ship's straight flight path began to wobble. Inside the scout ship, chaos erupted. The first officer started making strange sounds. The pilot couldn't stop staring at his own hands, giggling at how many fingers he had. The ship's commander tried to send a warning message to the fleet, but couldn't stop laughing long enough to speak clearly. "This is, hey, Scout Ship 7, reporting. Ha, 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 your antenna looks so funny." The transmission made even the serious military commanders smile. The scout ship's movements became more erratic. It swayed left and right like a drunk butterfly, dipping and rising in the air. The aliens' advanced technology couldn't help them. Their pilots were too busy laughing to fly straight. Earth's computers picked up fragments of their internal communications. The universal translators had trouble converting alien laughter, but the message was clear. The mighty warriors of the Zixithraxian Empire were giggling like children at a birthday party. James pointed excitedly at his readings. Look at these neural patterns. The gas is affecting their whole nervous system. They're experiencing pure joy, maybe for the first time in their species' history. The scout ship finally had to land in a Vancouver park. When local police carefully approached, they found the alien crew rolling around in their seats, pointing at each other and howling with laughter. The fearsome warriors who had threatened Earth yesterday couldn't even stand up straight today. Videos of the laughing aliens quickly spread across the internet. People who had been terrified of the invaders yesterday were now sharing clips of Zixithraxian soldiers trying to look serious, but bursting into giggles instead. In New York, Supreme War Master Thax received the news with horror. His elite scout team had been reduced to a laughing mess. Worse, his own officers were trying not to smile as they read the reports. This was a direct attack on Zixithraxian dignity. Back in the command center, Sarah and James high-fived each other. Their plan had worked better than anyone expected, but they knew the real battle was just beginning. The small scout ship was one thing. Taking on the entire alien fleet would be much harder. Well, Sarah said, looking at the successful test results, I guess it's time to order more laughing gas. A lot more. The world now had hope. The aliens weren't invincible after all. Sometimes the best weapon isn't the biggest or most advanced. Sometimes it's just something that makes you laugh until you can't fight anymore. Supreme War Master Thax was furious. His purple face had turned almost blue with anger as he watched another video of his soldiers laughing uncontrollably. This was not how the mighty Zixithraxian Empire was supposed to behave. Enough, he shouted, smashing his control panel. Launch the attack. Show these primitives what real warfare looks like. Across Earth, thousands of alien fighter ships descended from the massive motherships. They looked like angry metal wasps, their weapons glowing with strange energy. In London, Paris, Tokyo, and dozens of other cities, people ran for shelter as the alien armada filled the skies. But Earth was ready. Dr. Sarah Chen and Dr. James O'Malley had worked with weather experts to place laughing gas clouds at different heights in the atmosphere. They called it the Laughing Layer Defense. The first wave of alien fighters hit the clouds over London. Their ships were sealed against Earth's atmosphere, but they hadn't counted on one thing. Their energy weapons heated the air as they fired, turning the laughing gas into a fine mist that seeped through their ventilation systems. Look, James pointed at the military's tracking screens. Their formation is breaking up. The perfectly organized attack squadrons began to fall apart. Alien pilots started giggling into their communication systems. Some ships began flying in silly patterns, drawing giant smiley faces in the sky with their engine trails. Over Sydney, Australia, an alien commander tried to keep his squadron together. All ships maintain attack format. Ha 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 ha. Oh stars, look at those funny Earthbirds. His ships scattered as their pilots became more interested in chasing seagulls than attacking the city. Social media exploded with videos. People filmed from their windows as mighty alien warriors stumbled out of landed ships, pointing at ordinary things and laughing hysterically. One viral video showed 3 Zixithraxian soldiers in Tokyo having a giggle fit over a vending machine that sold weird flavors of Kit Kat bars. This is terrible. Supreme War Master Thax yelled at his officers. But some of them were already infected. His second-in-command couldn't stop snickering every time. Thax's antenna twitched in anger. The humans started getting braver. In Rio de Janeiro, people held up funny signs for the alien ships to read. In Moscow, street performers juggled and made faces at the confused alien warriors. In Cairo, children drew silly pictures of laughing aliens and taped them to lampposts. Dr. Chen watched all this from the command center, amazed at how quickly fear had turned into fun. We're not just defeating them, she told James. We're teaching them how to laugh. The Thraxian Empire had never faced an enemy like this. Their weapons were useless against an attack they couldn't shoot or bomb. Their strict military training fell apart as more and more soldiers discovered the joy of laughter. A group of alien fighters tried to attack Chicago, but flew through a thick cloud of laughing gas. 10 minutes later, their ships were parked in a drive-thru, with the pilots trying to order those round Earth bread things with holes in them, donuts, while giggling uncontrollably. As the sun set on the first day of the alien attack, Supreme War Master Kithax realized something horrifying. He was losing the war. Not because Earth had better weapons or stronger armies, but because humans had found the one thing his mighty empire couldn't fight against: the power of laughter. And somewhere in his stern warrior heart, a tiny part of him wanted to laugh too. Operation Laughing Storm began at dawn. Every dental office, hospital, and medical facility on Earth had worked through the night, producing as much nitrous oxide as possible. Farmers had converted their crop dusting planes into gas delivery systems. Even the International Space Station had been turned into a high-altitude gas deployment platform. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in front of a wall of screens in the military command center, watching the largest coordinated attack in human history unfold. But instead of missiles and bombs, they were using laughter as their weapon. "All teams, report in," General Williams commanded. The responses came from around the world. Tokyo ready with 5,000 canisters. London standing by with modified weather drones. Rio launching gas balloons now. Mumbai crop dusters in position. James checked the wind patterns one last time on his computer. "The weather is perfect," he told Sarah. "Global wind currents will carry the gas right where we need it." High above Earth, astronauts on the International Space Station prepared special canisters of concentrated laughing gas. They had the perfect view of the massive alien motherships floating below them. Commander Rodriguez smiled as she pressed the release button. Special delivery for the Thraxian Empire. The attack hit the aliens from every direction. Crop dusters swooped under their ships, releasing clouds of gas. Weather drones flew in complex patterns, creating walls of nitrous oxide that the alien ships couldn't avoid. High-altitude balloons burst at exactly the right heights, spreading the gas through the upper atmosphere. Inside the alien mothership over New York, Supreme War Master Kithax watched in horror as his mighty fleet fell into chaos. Ships were landing in strange places. One battle cruiser had parked in a Disney World parking lot, its crew demanding to try something called roller coasters. "Stop them!" Kithax screamed into his command system, but most of his officers were already affected. His elite bridge crew was having a paper airplane contest with their battle reports. The humans got creative with their attack. In Australia, they used the famous Sydney Opera House as a massive gas dispersal fan. In Egypt, archaeologists used ancient tomb ventilation shafts to surprise alien ground troops with bursts of laughing gas. In Switzerland, ski resorts turned their snow-making machines into gas sprayers, filling entire valleys with nitrous oxide. The space station crew reported amazing sights. Alien ships were flying in conga lines. Some were trying to play tag with satellites. A huge battleship had written "Humans are highly in giant letters using its engine trails. Sarah watched all this with growing excitement. "It's not just working," she told James. "It's working better than we ever imagined. We're not just beating them, we're changing them." The Thraxian Empire's fearsome reputation crumbled by the hour. Videos spread across the galaxy showing their mighty warriors doing silly dances, telling bad jokes, and having giggling fits over simple things like bubble wrap and rubber ducks. Other alien species watching the battle couldn't believe their eyes. The most powerful military force in the galaxy was being defeated by a planet's worth of dentists and farmers armed with laughing gas. As night fell, Operation Laughing Storm had achieved what seemed impossible just days ago. The alien fleet was in complete disarray. Their ships either landed or flew in wobbly circles, their crews too busy laughing to fight. But the greatest change was happening inside the alien mothership. Supreme Warmaster Cathax felt something strange in his face muscles. For the first time in his long military career, he was fighting the urge to smile. Strange things were happening aboard the Zixathraxian ships. After being exposed to the laughing gas, the aliens weren't just giggling anymore. They were changing in deeper ways. Dr. Sarah Chen and Dr. James O'Malley watched in amazement as their video monitors showed scenes from inside the alien vessels. In one ship, a low-ranking soldier told a joke to his commander, something that would have been punishable by death just days ago. But instead of punishment, the commander laughed so hard he had to sit down. Soon, the entire bridge crew was sharing jokes and funny stories. "Look at this," James said, pointing to a screen showing an alien cafeteria. The usually strict Zixathraxians were having food fights, making faces with their meals, and drawing silly pictures on their tablets. Their rigid military hierarchy was melting away in waves of laughter. Even more surprising were the messages Earth started receiving from alien families back in the Empire. The warriors had been sending videos home, showing themselves laughing and having fun. Now their families wanted to experience this strange new thing called humor too. Sarah watched as alien children, seeing their warrior parents laugh for the first time, began trying to make jokes of their own. "We're not just changing their soldiers," she realized. "We're changing their whole society." The effects spread through the alien fleet like wildfire. Lower-ranking aliens discovered they could make their superiors laugh, which made everyone feel more equal. Strict military regulations about maintaining proper warrior dignity were forgotten as aliens discovered the joy of being silly. One alien scientist made an important discovery. Their species had humor genes that had been suppressed for thousands of years by their strict warrior culture. The laughing gas had awakened these sleeping genes, letting them feel joy and humor for the first time in their history. In the ship's recreation rooms, aliens who used to spend their free time practicing combat moves were now watching human comedy shows. They especially loved old slapstick movies and cartoon shows. One group became obsessed with watching cat videos from the internet. Supreme Warmaster, a young officer, reported, trying to keep a straight face, "The Third Fleet is requesting permission to organize something called a comedy night." Cathax, watching his mighty empire transform, just put his head in his hands. On Earth, people were amazed by videos showing the changes. Alien warriors who had threatened to destroy their planet were now taking selfies with humans, trying to learn jokes in different languages, and asking for copies of funny movies to take home. Some aliens even started creating their own humor. They invented jokes about having 3 arms, wrote funny songs about space travel, and made comedic plays about their old serious ways. Their art, once only showing battle scenes, now included cartoons and funny drawings. Dr. Chen received a surprising message from an alien cultural expert. "Our ancient records show our species once knew how to laugh, thousands of years ago. You humans didn't just defeat us. You helped us remember who we used to be." James looked at Sarah as they read the message. "You know what this means. Your laughing gas didn't just stop a war. It brought back a part of their culture they had lost." The war wasn't over yet, but something bigger was happening. The mighty Zixathraxian Empire, feared across the galaxy for its serious and strict ways, was learning to laugh again. And once you learn to laugh, it's very hard to go back to being serious all the time. Supreme Warmaster Cathax was having the worst week of his life. His mighty invasion fleet had turned into a humans called a comedy club. Now, sitting in his command chair, he faced an even bigger problem. His own officers were starting to question everything. Supreme Warmaster, his second-in-command, said, trying not to grin, "Why exactly are we invading Earth? I mean, think about it. We came to conquer them, but they've taught us how to laugh instead. Isn't that better than fighting?" Cathax's antenna twitched in annoyance. A week ago, such questions would have been treason. But now, other officers on the bridge were nodding in agreement. Some were even giggling at his twitching antenna. Dr. Sarah Chen, and Dr. James O'Malley watched all this through the communication feeds they could now access. The laughing gas had affected the alien security systems too. Their mighty encryption codes had been replaced with jokes and funny cat pictures as passwords. "The Empire is falling apart," James said, pointing to his monitors. "Look at these messages from their other conquered worlds." Across the galaxy, planets that the Zixthraxians had conquered years ago were catching the laughter virus. Alien species that had lived under strict Zixthraxian rule were watching videos from Earth, learning about jokes and humor. Some were already starting their own comedy shows and funny broadcasts. On the mothership, Cathax received more disturbing reports. His elite guard unit had organized a comedy competition instead of their usual combat practice. The ship's engineers were using spare parts to build something called a bouncy castle. Even the feared Imperial Intelligence Division was too busy sharing memes to spy on anyone. "This is unacceptable," Thax shouted, but when he slammed his fist on his command panel in anger, it made a squeaky toy noise. Someone had reprogrammed all the ship's sound effects to be funny. The entire bridge crew burst out laughing. Back on Earth, Sarah received an unexpected message. It was from a group of young Zixthraxian officers calling themselves the Laughing Liberation Front. They wanted to change the Empire from within, to make it less about conquering and more about sharing joy across the galaxy. "Your laughing gas showed us a better way," their message said. "Why spend our lives fighting when we could spend them laughing instead? Also, you have more of those things called joke books. We've already read all the ones we downloaded." The rebellion of joy spread quickly through the fleet. Ships started declaring themselves laugh-free zones, where anyone could tell jokes without fear of punishment. Some crews painted smiley faces on their fearsome battle cruisers. One entire battleship voted to turn itself into a traveling space comedy club. Cathax tried to maintain control, but it was too late. His own family sent him a message from home. His children had learned to laugh, and they wanted their father to learn too. For the first time in his life, the Supreme War Master felt tears in his eyes, not from sadness, but from fighting back laughter. Even the Empire's strict rules couldn't stop joy from spreading. As James explained to the UN Council, "You can't fight laughter with weapons. Once people learn to laugh, they never want to stop." Sarah looked at the latest reports with a smile. "The Empire isn't just cracking," she said. "It's transforming. And maybe that's better than destroying it. We're helping them become something new." And up in his command ship, Supreme War Master Thax stood alone on his bridge, facing the hardest choice of his life. Continue fighting a war he was already losing, or finally let himself learn to laugh. The end of the war didn't come with a big battle or a formal surrender. Instead, it started with a laugh. Supreme War Master Cathax's first real laugh. It happened during an emergency meeting about Earth. Cathax was trying to give a serious speech about maintaining Zixthraxian dignity when someone in the back of the room made a funny face. For a moment, he tried to stay stern. Then, to everyone's surprise, he started chuckling. The chuckle grew into a laugh, and soon the mighty Supreme War Master was laughing so hard he had to hold onto his command chair for support. Dr. Sarah Chen and Dr. James O'Malley watched the historic moment on their screens. "That's it," Sarah said softly. "That's the real victory." Within hours, the news spread across Earth, and the Zixthraxian Empire, the most feared military commander in the galaxy, had finally learned to laugh. If Cathax could laugh, anyone could. The changes happened quickly after that. Cathax made a new announcement to all his forces. The Zixthraxian Empire will no longer conquer worlds. Instead, we will share something more powerful than weapons. We will share joy and laughter. The mighty invasion fleet transformed overnight. Warships became comedy clubs and entertainment centers. Battle cruisers were painted in bright colors. The feared Imperial Palace on the Zixthraxian homeworld was turned into the galaxy's biggest comedy school. Earth became famous across the galaxy. Aliens from hundreds of worlds wanted to visit the planet that had defeated the mighty Zixithraxian Empire with laughter. Tourism companies started offering special comedy tours of Earth, with stops at famous dental offices. Dr. Chen found herself with a new job, Earth's first ambassador to the reformed Zixithraxian territories. Her first task was teaching a class called Introduction to Human Humor to Alien Diplomats. James helped by creating a universal translator specifically for jokes. The effects spread far beyond Earth and the Empire. Other warlike alien species watched in amazement as their fearsome enemies transformed into friends. Some tried to resist the spread of laughter, but it was too late. Joy was more contagious than any weapon. Fax himself became an unexpected champion of peace. He traveled the galaxy, sharing his story of how learning to laugh had changed his life. His favorite joke became, "How many Supreme War Masters does it take to change a light bulb? None. They're too busy trying not to smile." Back on Earth, things changed too. Dental offices proudly displayed plaques reading, "We helped save Earth." Children learned in school how laughing gas had defeated an alien invasion. The Nobel Peace Prize Committee created a new category for achievements in galactic harmony through humor. 5 years after the invasion that never happened, Earth hosted the first Galactic Comedy Festival. Aliens from thousands of worlds came to share jokes, stories, and laughter. The highlight was a comedy duet featuring Dr. Chen and former Supreme War Master Kathax telling jokes about the war that ended with giggles instead of battles. In the end, humanity's greatest victory wasn't defeating an alien empire. It was teaching the galaxy how to laugh. As Sarah often said in her speeches, "We didn't just save Earth. We helped the universe remember that joy is stronger than fear, and laughter is better than war." And somewhere in a busy spaceport, you might still see a mighty Zixithraxian warrior in full battle armor, standing in line at a human coffee shop, trying to remember that funny joke about 3 humans walking into a bar.